Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
According to an article written on Yahoo Sports by Megan Wallace, Caitlyn Jenner has attracted controversy after appearing as a guest on the American TV news channel Fox Business Live and sharing her thoughts on Florida's Don't Say Gay bill last week. The moment in question came after Caitlyn was asked by the news host if the state of Florida, quote, did the right thing by banning the teaching of gender identity to very young children, end quote, by signing the Don't Say Gay bill into legislation. She responded by saying that she was in support of the move before adding, quote, I'm a parent. I have been in control of my children's destiny and what they learn in school, not some math teacher. I can teach those lessons, end quote. Her answer has been the subject of vocal criticism on Twitter from members of the LGBTQIA plus community. People on Twitter People on Twitter, particularly those within the LGBTQIA plus community, haven't been holding back. Posts have described her as a puppet and a disgrace. And one user wrote, quote, PSA, Caitlyn Jenner doesn't speak for the entire LGBTQ plus community. She speaks for the 0.0001%, end quote. RuPaul's Drag Race alum Shangela was among those speaking out about Caitlyn's comments, saying, quote, I'm only going to say this. Possibly, if your teachers had been allowed to have educated discussions with you about sensitive issues, perhaps you would have felt empowered to own your own identity before your 60s, or at least allow others the space to own theirs, end quote. So, Andre, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on her saying that parents are in control of their children's destiny?
First off, let's just appreciate that Shangela Reed because that was one. That was the
The
library was open.
library open.
But I want to start off by saying that I am so tired of hearing, oh, we shouldn't be teaching kids about gender at such a young age, because that's just some cishet bullshit. You teach kids about gender the moment that they're fucking born. I mean, you paint whole fucking rooms blue or pink as soon as you find out the gender of your babies. You tell little Tommy that he can't play with dolls, makeup, or dresses and skirts because that's for girls and he's a boy. Or you tell Lydia that she can't play outside and get dirty like the boys can because she needs to be dainty and act like a little girl. Every time we make steps towards progress, even the smallest ones, ignorant jackasses come out and push back so fucking hard. Children are not stupid. Children are more aware of the world than people give them credit for. Children, a lot of the times, are more accepting than the adults that have had several years of experience dealing with people that aren't exactly the same as them. Teaching children about gender is simply another way of helping them understand how to respect people in the world and maybe even understand themselves. I've told the story on the podcast before, but it bears repeating. I've known that I was not like the other boys in my class since I was in kindergarten. I knew I was different and spent the next 2 decades fighting with myself, society, and my religious upbringing to fully accept and celebrate myself. And I still struggle with that from time to time. This isn't the case for all children. To completely ignore something is sometimes worse than just outright saying you don't like it. If kids aren't able to find the words to describe their feelings about who they are, they can sometimes lash out on others or more likely themselves. The number of children and teens who have committed suicide because they are told that who they are is wrong and ungodly and an abomination is astronomical. And I could have just as easily been part of those statistics. And Miss Jenner and all the other parents who are watching and listening, you don't control shit. You might think you do, but you don't. No matter how many beatings or prayer retreats or lies you try to scare your children with, they will be who they are. And the more you keep pushing and pressing your child to become the person you want them to be, the more likely you are to lose them completely when they become adults. You see, you'll be the parent that they only see on the holidays if they see you at all. You will lose out on being in your child's life, seeing your grandchildren, and so much more. And in that situation, that would be the best outcome, because the worst would be that that child wouldn't even make it to adulthood because they've decided that they'd rather die than not meet the expectation you set for their lives. And this isn't just about gender or sexuality. It's about all parents who truly believe they can control their child's destiny. The ones who think they know what's best for their child's future, regardless of what their child says to them. So I think it's time for y'all to pick a future that you want with your child, because there are only two options. It's either the child you never see or the child you'll have to bury. So, Daquon, I want to pass the question back to you. What are your thoughts?
Here's a hot take that shouldn't be a hot take. Parenting is not about controlling children. Parenting is about guiding children. Parenting is about supporting children. Parenting is about teaching children moral values and giving them the support that they need to be independent thinkers and grow up to be fully fledged human beings. A child is not a robot. It's not yours to create and create their own destiny and whatever. A child's destiny is their destiny, regardless of you as a parent. And I think that that's a problem that a lot of parents have, is they have children to either do what they didn't do or do what they want
Mhm.
them to do and all of these different things, or be a mini version of themselves. And no, that is a human being. They may not have the capabilities to support themselves because they are a child, but they can think. They can learn how to cognitively discuss certain things. And there are ways of breaking things down that a child can understand almost anything. And I think that a big problem with people who support this bill is they always just come up with some type of narrative that, like, oh, this is so inappropriate, like
Yeah.
I should be able to control what my kids are learning. And it's like, you don't control the math lessons your students learn. You don't control the science experiments your students do. You don't control any of these other academic subjects that you just accept a qualified professional to teach them about. Yet still something as complex as gender and everything like that, you think you're the one who's qualified, not somebody that has literally spent years in school to be able to look at what is appropriate for a certain age group, literally breaking down, okay, what is child psychology, brain development is like. I've taken child psychology classes, I've taken classes on child development. And so I know certain things about what is appropriate and how a child can learn something like this. And it's like, nobody is trying to teach a kid what sex is. Nobody's trying to teach a kindergarten
Obviously, yeah,
two
no,
gay
it
people
should be
having
obvious.
sex. That should be the bare minimum. But people have this outward notion that anything related to LGBTQIA community is immoral, and sex and just all of these dirty things, when in reality, people are just fighting for the right that a teacher can say, oh, Susie has two moms, and that's okay. We should respect Susie. Johnny has two dads, and that's okay. We should respect Johnny. And so it's nothing that's like anything out there that's trying to corrupt a child. It's simply facts of life. There are students who have two moms or two dads. There are students who have non binary parents. And so we are all trying to just get at being able to teach something that is objectively true about our society in a way that is not trying to put an onus on the student to make a moral decision or cast judgments on other people, but rather accept their peers as for who they are. And so when you say you control your child's destiny, like, no, you do not. Your child will be who they are. And if anything, you are controlling all of the things that oppress them in reaching their destiny and becoming the truest version of themselves. Because like Shangela said, if you had that education when you were younger, maybe you would have known who you were a lot earlier rather than getting to being 60. Like, how sad that you spent most of your life not knowing who you truly was, and think
Mhm.
about all of the things that you could have done or all of the happiness you could have had if you came to terms with who you are at a younger age.
Exactly. I fully agree. And I noticed that people sometimes conveniently forget their statuses as allies and advocates the moment that someone from a minority community says something they don't like. Um You'd be amazed at how comfortable people are using slurs and being disrespectful when they talk about someone who is disliked by the masses. White, quote unquote allies will often let several microaggressions, racism, and bigotry fly when discussing Christian Walker because they think it's okay. Because the community that protects him doesn't like him either. And people will oftentimes let that internalized massage noir fly out of their mouth when they're talking about Candace Owens and transphobia that tumbles out of people's mouths when discussing how much they hate Caitlyn Jenner. I mean, it's astonishing how bold they get. I mean, let me make one thing clear. If you're homophobic when talking about Christian Walker, you're just homophobic. When you are racist talking about Candace Owens, you're just racist. And when you're transphobic talking about Caitlyn Jenner, you're just transphobic. You can dislike someone without having to demean an aspect of their identity. If you cannot argue or disagree with someone's beliefs or stance without relying on ad hominem fallacies or prejudice, then you're not arguing effectively. You're just attacking, and these are two completely different things. I don't have to agree with Christian Walker, Candace Owens, or Caitlyn Jenner to respect their identities. Christian Walker is a gay black man. Candace Owens is a black woman, and Caitlyn Jenner is a trans woman. Just because they have some incredibly problematic stances and beliefs does not mean that they are any less worthy of their identities being protected. You can't call yourself an advocate for black women, trans women, and gay people, and then turn around and use those very same identities as a way to disrespect people you don't like. Bad people exist everywhere, and minority communities are no exception. Hold a person accountable for their problematic beliefs. Correct them if you can. If they won't listen, then ensure that the people that are listening hear your argument as well. But don't ever use someone's identity as a weapon against them. But Daquon, what about you? I mean, do you think that people use, the worst people of a community as a way to excuse their prejudice and bigotry?
Absolutely. And one thing that that tells me is that if you are spreading all of this homophobic or transphobic or racist things against people who have a different opinion than you, even if you are supposed to be quote unquote my ally, all that tells me is the minute I do something that rubs you the wrong way, the minute I speak out of line, quote unquote, the moment I do anything that you don't like, you're just going to turn on me. I wasn't really your ally. You were just using me to feel better about yourselves, to have this moral high ground that you stand on. And what that says is you're not really down for progress. You're not really down to be an ally and an advocate for a cause. You just want the clout that comes with it. And I'm not going to be anybody's puppet. I'm not going to be anybody's, look at my black friend. No, like that's not who I am. That's who I
Mhm.
will never be. And if you think that about me, then just like exit stage left. Just like go. I don't need to spend any energy on you because that's not who I need in my circle and that's not who I'm going to keep in my circle. And that's on period.